this computer.
Yeah. Hi everyone. Mike, Cassandra, Karen. I hope you're all doing fine and had a good time with your issues in the last week. How did it go?
I'm just deferring to Mike's immense knowledge this week.
Okay.
I just sat in the passenger seat and was in awe, really.
That's also fine. But at least hopefully there was something to learn from it, from the whole review and the process.
Very much so,
Yeah. And the issue for the next weeks will be quite interesting because now you have more control over those. So we'll be curious to see how you guys or how you all go about it. Okay, but we will start with the issues. Demos. And since you mentioned Mike and Karen, then we can start with you both for the demos. And I would like for us to go a bit fast. So for the demos, ideally like 7 minutes, 5. Or so if you would go a bit more detailed in the code review, then maybe take about 2 minutes tops or 3 to go through the demo quickly. So we can go over any questions and issues before finish up on time. So just to have that in mind in case you want to determine how detailed you want to go. But I leave it to you both, and whoever wants to start with the demo.
I will start with the demo if that's okay, Mike. Oh, I need to be able to.
Yeah, I have all the Zoom controls because like very early on during the pandemic, I was in a huge Zoom call, and then there was like these hackers came in and they did some naughty stuff. It was very unpleasant. So yeah, I have all the controls. You're all good to go now.
Thank you. Everybody see the screen?
Yeah.
So actually, can you see GitHub now? Or are you still seeing Visual Studio Code? That's fine. I'll start Visuals.
Yeah.
No. Right, I'm there. So our issue was to sort the users list items by how soon they are needed to buy. So the categories that we had to sort everything into was soon, so 7 days or fewer until next purchase, kind of soon, so 7 days, between 7 days and 30 days until next purchase, not soon, so over 30 days. And then we sorted some items into inactive. So that meant that there had been 60 days or more since the last purchase. And then the stretch task was to sort items into an overdue category if their next purchase date had passed, but they weren't yet inactive. So it hadn't yet been 60 days since the user last purchased them. So as you can see, we put a bit of thought into the UI and have these nifty little kind of lozenge bars to indicate how soon it is the user needs to purchase, and also color coding, but also because we weren't meant to rely solely on color coding, we've added in the wording as well, just to make it super obvious for the user when they next need to purchase. So that is a speedy run through of our, it's also, as you can see, sorted into order. So overdue items go straight to the top. So the user can easily see they need to purchase soon. And then it sorts the soon items next, then kind of soon, not soon. And then finally at the bottom, the inactive items.
Before we move on, I have a question, comment. The inactive, so there's like a slight color contrast issue, so it's very hard to see. So it would be good to, and I think I use dark theme. So for example, kind of soon for me was in white text and then the yellow background. It was also quite hard to see. So it could be like a good idea to go through the colors and make sure that like if you hover over the color, Normally, Chrome or Firefox gives you like AA or A, you know, like is the context good enough? So it would be good to go through that. And then the other one, it would be nice if the second, so this element is normally called a pill, the losange bar, you call it, it's a pill. It would be good if they were aligned, so
Yeah.
that now it's like they're competing, like, and it would be nice if they
Yeah.
were aligned. And yeah, maybe like also, yeah, so if you now buy it, will it change the color, or how does that work? If you then purchase the rice, does anything happen? Okay. Okay. Cool. Okay. So yeah, that was just a comment about the UI, but we'll talk about it more at the end of the meeting when we talk about the next 2 weeks issue. Thank you.
Yeah, I think the demo was fine and great. I like also the fancy colors, except from the last one that it's a bit hard to see if it was inactive or not, but totally fine for me. So I think we can move on to the code.
Right, let me share my screen quickly. All right, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
All right, so for this particular issue, it was a lot of code, so I'm not sure exactly how quickly I can talk about everything. But so for this, let me start with the color coding for the list item V. So here we defined the overdue items here, and then here we this is where we defined the progress, the progress bar for each of the component for each of the items on the list. We are returning a class here. So this progress bar, we passed it into okay, we passed it in here. Yeah, we passed it in here as the class name, and for the soon, kind of soon, that's the progress bar text. We defined all of them here, and we passed it into this this tag here. And for the titles, when you hover over each of the bars, the progress bar, the title you get, also we defined a function for it and passed it in here. I think that is basically like a summary of what happened within this place. And then we had to update this function here using a function from date function, basically, because we're not getting the proper calculations for some of the variables we calculated here. And then inside the Firebase, we wrote a function that basically compare urgency function. So this is where the items are sorted. Here in this place, we're just giving them tags and then defining the progress. But then this is where we then did all the sorting of all the items according to the acceptance criteria for this particular issue. And after doing this, we exported this function into we exported it into list add item view here, and we passed it, right? This is your, I'm not sure. We exported it into, okay, no, not here. We exported it into, I think, list. Yes, we imported it into the list component, and then we created another variable and we sorted the previously filtered data and passed in the compare function in here. And so we're now mapping through this sorted list and displaying the items inside the list item. Basically, that's what we did. Yeah, that's what we did. That's just a brief about what we did. So it was a little bit complicated. It dragged a little, and then I think so. I don't carry this trying to be modest, but we but then it was a lot of discussions and just trying to properly understand what the issue was all about, and yeah, she was really helpful.
Yeah, good. I think it was quite impressive that you at least finished on time. I think my last cohort is that had quite a bit of hassle with this task because of the dates and figuring out how best to sort the soon and kind of soon. So sometimes dealing with dates is very hard, but you have it done, so it's quite impressive. I was just I'm just trying to follow the code to understand because it's like a lot of code, but
Yes, it's a lot actually.
yeah, I couldn't follow through all, but I was only curious because I see you have get progress bar start and you have get progress bar text, and I feel like there's some things that could be the way it's handled, because the way you calculate the dates and maybe overdue or inactive is the same across both function, I think. The only difference is in one case you are returning a CSS and the other case you are returning, I guess, just a text.
Yeah.
And I think those can be just done once and you can have a way of returning both data, but in one function.
Yeah.
But in this case, it's like I mean, everything that looks good. I'm only just trying to make emphasis on something that could be a bit cleaner.
Yeah, I agree.
Which repetitions that happens, because also if you repeat a lot, it's hard to maintain, but also when you have a lot of data, it also takes time to process sequentially. So that's just on the one I saw. So something to consider maybe for your future tasks in terms of refactoring if you find it hard to maintain. Otherwise, you can also just focus on UI stuff. But overall, I think it's quite impressive. So I leave it to Eva. She has something to add.
Yeah, I had yeah, I also think it's lots of code, lots of code. So well done. Because yeah, this was a tricky task. One of my suggestions would be to put the, you know, the algorithm logic as in the what does it mean soon, kind of soon. Because when you do that if statement, there's a lot of numbers like less than 7 or less than 30 and less than something. I would probably put that into like an object, like a const object where you could say, you know, like a week or so. That's because we try to avoid these magic numbers, so that also if you want to tweak the algorithm in the future, it's easier to just change the constant. So I would try to put at least those things that repeat, or like this, because this is like your recipe, right, for how you measure how soon something could be bought. So I would maybe put that on top, maybe some explanations, and then you could just access it by, you know, like have an object, and they would say, something, I don't know what would be a good name for this object. But do you know what I mean, Karen and Mike? Like instead of having in the if statements, for example, you had lower than 7 a couple of times, or like the numbers were repeating, and that could be taken out, and you could use a const instead. So you would reuse it, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yes, for I heard most of what you said. Yes, it makes sense actually. So can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I dropped off a bit, but I think I got most of the things you said. I'm sure looking at the way the code is, I'm very sure it can be refactored and made smaller. It's just when you're just trying to get something done, you just write as much as you want to. So maybe later on, yeah, it's something I can go back to and see how I can drop it.
And this is like this week specifically was to test you in when is something good enough, or when can you do something in time that you're given? Because like you said, maybe the code, you would want it to be even better and like amazing, but sometimes we're only given this specific amount of time to deploy or to push the code. So you have to make compromises. But yeah, like Peter said, if it works, it's good enough for now. But if you have any time in the future, it's nice to refactor and make it a little bit more clearer, more maintainable.
Yeah, thank you.
A comment from the other team?
No, not from me.
In the absence of no comment, then you should present your demo and code.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Let me go over the demo immediately. Okay, is my screen clear? Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, right. So I will be going over the demo. How do I get this to get out of my way?
What are you trying to move the Zoom bar, or which thing?
Yeah, this.
So just try to drag it like to a corner somewhere, because we can't see it. It's only on your screen.
Okay. Okay, so quickly, okay, you can see my screen, right?
Yeah.
The issue says that we should provide a delete button so that a user can delete items if they don't use it again, or if they made mistakes in typing the item, and then a prompt to confirm whether the user really wants to delete or the mistake. Okay, so over to the UI. Simply, a user can delete pen by clicking the delete button and then clicking OK to confirm. And once the user deletes it here, it also deletes from the database. You can see the pen just deleted. Like, let's delete cake now. Okay, so deleting cake and confirming it. If you go to database, it is deleted. Okay, so Sandra will walk us through the code.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks. I'm going to share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so to complete this task, this functionality, we have modified the Firebase folder, and we have to populate this function called delete item here in the line 101. So this function exports a delete operation for an item in the list. It takes two parameters, list ID and item ID, which represents the ID reference to the specific list and item to be deleted. We have here a try and catch block of code. Is inside this try block, the delete function is called, and it belongs to the Firebase database library. This function here. The delete doc function deletes the document referenced by the provided document path. In this case, it deletes the document specified by the doc db list ID item. So the DB represents the database object, and the list ID and the item ID are used to construct the specific document path. Also, here we have imported. We have imported this is here, the delete doc function. We also created in the list item, we have created the, where is this? Handle delete function. Using the const keyword, we have created this function, and inside the function there is a conditional statement using the JavaScript method called window.confirm here. This method displays a confirmation dialog with a specific message. In this case is, are you sure you want to delete this item? And also displays a message and OK and cancel buttons. So if the user clicks the OK condition, as Cassandra showed you, the condition evaluates true to true, and the code inside the block is executed. So if the user confirms the deletion by clicking OK, the code proceeds to the next line. So it calls the function delete item, passing two arguments, the list token and the item ID. Well, the keyword, this keyword await is used to wait for the promise return by the delete item to resolve before continuing. Okay, so what else have we done in the line number 9, line number 183? I think we have created inside the list element, we have created this button element with an on-click event handler. So it sets to the handle delete function. When the button is clicked and the on-click event is triggered, and the handle delete function is called as a result of the on-click event. Also, we modified the CSS file. I think we use this class list item ID to just create a margin to the right, but I think it's this margin button. Cassandra, I can't remember where did we do the margin. I think it's in the list item, right?
I removed that already. It was
yes.
Yeah, it
Okay.
distorted the UI after merging our own, so I had to adjust it.
Okay, well, that's what we did. I don't know what. So did you adjust the margin button? I don't get how.
No, there was a class here. There was another class between the list item and the list item checkbox. Just above the list item checkbox, I removed it.
Okay, perfect. So that's all from me, and thank you very much, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you for showing the code. Any comment from you, Eva? Okay. I think the demo was good, and code, I saw something in the code that I was curious. I saw somewhere where if an item is undefined, you also return undefined to the I think it was a list tag where you are showing recently bought items. And I think in some cases that could cause some issues. For example, when you return undefined to something React renders in most cases, I think it would return a 0 for you And it's just something to pay attention to when you are writing React code. And I'm not sure if they fixed it and that is no longer an issue, but it's something that you could run into problems in the future where you might be seeing 0 in your UI and you are wondering why it's showing 0. In most cases, it could be because of those undefined. Just something for the confirm box, in case you want to do something nicer for your next sprint. I think there's this HTML dialog box where you could use to show like a dialog for, oh, do you want to delete? Yes or no? If you want to have, instead of adding a dialog component or thinking there's a native HTML tag for that, and you can just style it to have something similar working. It's just a suggestion for something you could consider for your future task if you want to. Aside from that, I think everything looks quite nice for me.
Thank you.
And a comment from the other team?
No. It was a good demo. Sandra sounded like a lecturer. It was good.
Sounded like what?
Lecturer,
think
Like a professor.
Yeah,
you
a
were very good. Yeah, it returns
Oh,
exam that gets resolved and like all of that.
okay.
Probably she is, and she
I hope
never.
that's good.
No, I think I think it's very good to be specific. People tend to be vague when they don't know exactly what something means, so they just say things. So when you are specific, it shows that you know what you're talking about. So I like that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, awesome. So we would move to the issued part. So we do the retros last. So Eva can walk us through the issues, but before that, just to give an idea of how the next 2 weeks would look like, is the next issue will last for 2 weeks, but we would also meet next week to go over the last learning module, but also to check on like how you are progressing on the task and if you need support. And then in the final week, which we would likely have our last meeting on the 29th on Monday, we would also have like a final retro and final demo. And at the end of the whole program, we are also expected to have like a written post, which will be sent on dev.to for people that are familiar with it. And it will just be a post that will have like a written something written to share like your experiences in the program, whatever you want to share, maybe things you learned, things you liked, your general impression. And in this case, it will capture almost or everybody's opinion, if you have any. So just to give you an idea of what to expect in the coming weeks, but the post can be written after the 29, and whenever it's ready, we can post that on the Collab Lab dev channel. But that will be more like it could be one person picking it up and saying they want to work on it and just gather input from everybody and put it all in the document. Or you could decide you want to do like a paired programming session or whatever to write it together and document it together, and the mentors can review and add a few notes if we also want to before it finally goes live. And also hopefully in the last call, it would kind of take a screenshot of our faces towards the end so that we can also go in the post. And I think Eva is quite prepared for that already. So that's just a bit of info for what to expect, and I hand over to Eva to take over.
Okay, so sorry, just in case we're nominating somebody that is going to write like dev post, I nominate Karen. I think Karen writes really well.
I was hoping to volunteer. I'd love to. But yeah, very very happy for Sandra or Mike to join into. But thanks.
Yeah, that's totally fine, and we can decide that the final weeks.
Okay, yeah. So last issue this is. Well, so like Peter said, we have now 2 weeks to give the app your personality, your so this is going to be more like focus on the visual, like how it's going to look like, colors, styling. But yeah, let's just go quickly through it. So you will have 2 weeks to do this. And you will be, most importantly, you'll be self-organized. So there's no more little tasks to scope down. So now you will also become product owners, and you'll become scrum masters, and you'll become designers and all of that. And you will manage the last 2 weeks of this, like in terms of tasks. So you will, as a team, all of 4 of you will be assigned this issue. And you can still work in pairs, or you can meet the 4 of you, however you would like to organize yourselves. I would suggest that one of you maybe is like a team lead, and they take the initiative of like, oh, let's organize and like do this, and yeah. But yeah, so there's a couple of suggestions here as to how you could go about this. So this is more like how designers from scratch, or like when you have your own application, like maybe, the ideas of like, oh, which colors do we want to use? Do we want to add a logo? Do we want to have a name? Do we want to have it like modern or classical? Or do we want to like, maybe someone has like a really favorite website, and they would like to just maybe be inspired by that and like use a couple of, I don't know, like cool animations, or like really whatever you would like to do. You can also use a framework. So instead of just like the CSS, you can choose whichever. So there's like a couple of frameworks suggested here. You can choose whichever you would like as a team, again, so you can only choose one. I would suggest that maybe pick one that maybe you see like a lot in job applications, or something that would be handy to know. I'm not gonna say which one, but yeah. So as a team, as long as you decide as a team, that works. So you can, besides the visual, you can also like implement, like maybe as the weeks went by, you were thinking, oh, it would be really cool to have this, or I always wanted to learn how to do that. Like feel free, like if you want to do animation or like mobile design, or really whichever thing you would like to focus on, and like as long as it ends up in like an application that works and looks good, the rest is up to you. So it's kind of to showcase not just like the technical, like picking the tickets and doing those. This is also more about like thinking, organizing, sketching, designing, and most importantly, working as a team. Do we have any questions?
No, thanks. So it was clear.
Okay, I'm gonna put all of you here. Put mine. Peter, is there anything is this not working? Is there anything that I missed? Or would this?
You said it all, and I think you also mentioned that it will last for 2 weeks.
Yes. Yeah, so it says here, so like don't feel like you have to close this issue now. We will for sure do like a check on Monday. So if you have a couple of things to demo, that would be great. I would really suggest that, like, instead of don't think about this as one big task, try to scope it down. So you can feel free to go here under issues and create new issues and say, I don't know, the first one could be add a new CSS framework. Oof, that's one issue. Then like the smaller, I mean, you saw through the issues that we went through, like when the issue was well scoped, it was easier, because then it's also easier for other people to review it. So like a good step would be like a planning meeting where you decide things that you could do. and maybe then prioritize them, because it could be that you won't have enough time to do them all, but maybe start with like the most important ones and then just go through them like one by one. And yeah, it will be good to have something that you can show on Monday, so that we can see where you're at, what you're focusing on, what if you have any questions, things like that. Okay, cool. That's exciting. I'm curious, like which way are you going? Like, is it modern? Is it more classic? Is it like animations and unicorns? Is it going to be like just black and white and big letter, small letter? You know, font. Deciding on a font that can take a week, but don't be, you know, try to do it quickly. But yeah, like, Google Fonts. Yeah, really, lots of things you can do.
If you also like found some issues previously in your code, or like you like to go a bit more technical, then Fancy UI also, like I think from comments over the week, there might still be points to refactor. So those are also things you can bring up on your discussion. I would say ideally you have them also written as user stories, like you've had your past issues. That also gives us ideas, mentors, like if we want to reference them in the future, what we are working on, or check up on you, what you are doing. So I think that approach works in following similar patterns you've had over the last few issues. But so maybe a recommendation, I think Eva also mentioned that is, if you work in a team, most teams that use some form of Scrum or Kanban, you sort of meet like what you call like a sprint planning. So you have like 2 weeks. So ideally Scrum meetings are like, or Scrum sprints are like 2 weeks. So you sort of plan what issue you want to work on in the next 2 weeks or in the next 1 week. And so, but before then, you already have some idea of like, you collect ideas for things you would like to have. And then in the meeting, you decide what is priority and what you want to work on, then how you want to assign the task. And if along the way you need some support in how you want to organize things, or opinion or suggestions, then you can always reach us on Slack. And yeah, I think that's hopefully you all put this together, but I trust you all. I think everyone in the team is pretty smart, and so. But any questions or something you'd like to clarify on that?
Not on that, not on what you just finished talking about, but I just so while looking at carrying demoing our project, the issue we worked on, I noticed it looks way different on our screen. My browser is I use a dark theme, so it looks way better on mine. So I was just wondering because I couldn't even see what the background colors inside each of the progress bars were. But just an idea. So I'm just looking for suggestions on how to make it dynamic in case a user is on a bright background, a bright theme like Karen's browser. Like how do I do something dynamic to make sure that it accounts for different background or different things on different computers?
Sorry, go.
So there's a way to do it. So it's if you use like a theme provider, so with context, or maybe you don't even need to do that. I think you could just use a toggle. So okay, there's 2 ways. One is to use a toggle, and like some websites will have it that you could switch like dark theme, light theme, so that you control it. So that the user controls it. Because some people have maybe dark system preference theme, but they prefer the websites on light. Like that happens to me, that I prefer the design in a specific way. And then the other option is to respect like the system theme. So if you just Google that, but it's mostly the decision of what you would like to do. Is it like automatically, or do you want the users to like toggle? Like you have like some people do really clever stuff that you can kind of like turn on this light switch, and then it's like light, and then turn it off and it's dark. But yeah, I also noticed because I also have the dark theme and it went dark for me. And for me, it was I told Karen the yellow one, the yellow bar with the white text. It was very difficult for me to see on the dark screen, the dark theme.
All right. Thank you.
I think it would also depends on if you decide to use vanilla CSS or some frameworks. For example, if you use Tailwind, or Chakra or something, they each have their own way where they make this customizable for you, so you don't have to think much. And in those cases, you can either adapt to the system theme, color theme, or to the how you toggle the feature manually from the code. But I think I'll decide to use regular CSS. There's a CSS query to read the system theme, and that should do it. But those are all of what you can all write down as things you would like to have or fix, and when you meet up, discuss the issues and how you want to prioritize those. If you want to support light theme, or if you don't want to support, those are something, it's up to you now to decide how you want your product to be. And I think you are the product manager.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so we would move to the retros. I think since you've done a bit some retros in the past, I wouldn't have to explain again. So I think you're quite familiar with it. We would use this link for the board, and there you have different columns. For the cards you would have to enter, and we would take about 7 minutes to write down, 5 to 7 minutes to write down on each column what you feel like, and also put beside the columns your name, like the person who wrote it, so that it's easier to see from the UI, who wrote it, and then we go by it. So we take 5-7 minutes, and if you all finish early, you can just put a note on the chat, on the Zoom chat, that you are done. And if we finish early, we can go over it earlier. All right, the timer starts now.
Okay, I'm gonna turn off the recording so that it's not boring for the next 5 minutes.
All right, robot 2. So we would go over each columns, and each person I would call name would go through their cards, and they can just read out what they wrote, and if they choose to elaborate, they can also elaborate a bit further if they like to. So for the appreciation column, we will start with Karen.
I don't really need to add anything to that. It's just a big thank you to Mike for sharing his knowledge and skills. Yeah, nothing really to add.
That's lovely. That's lovely. And especially because Mike, didn't you say that you really enjoy teaching as well?
I guess that's why he could spot Sandra's professor skills. Is he back on the video?
Right.
Or?
Right. Yeah. I said that. It's although I don't think I had a lot of time to teach on this particular issue. I think it was more of just trying to get it done. But majorly, I think major things we talked about was maybe at the beginning when we were trying to discuss how we could go about it and try to understand the issue. But yeah, I don't think I did a lot of teaching on this particular issue.
That's nice from you, Karen. And Mike, over to you. Let's know what you wrote in the columns.
I think I just I thanked the mentors, you guys, for giving all the sage advice, it was very all those very all those inputs were I think I've been able to get a lot of things, especially from having to in helping me write concise code and making sure I'm not just throwing around the um React hooks all over the place. So I think that was an improvement. I don't think I use a lot of React hooks anymore in my projects, but yeah, I think I've become a better developer basically. And then I also other thing I talked about here was carrying. So I realized that her day is always quite busy, not having to go to work and then come back to um, and then get her kids and then get home to talk about her code. So yeah, thank you.
Not that I've been whinging to Mike, it's all about my busy day. Thank you, that's very nice of you to say so.
That's all.
Right. Sandra?
Yes, well, my message is as well regarding Mike and my other team members. Mike has helped us a lot as well in the process, and in our case, for example, I worked with Cassandra the last two issues, and Mike helped us to finish the one, not this week, but the one the previous week. We worked like the whole week with Cassandra, and it was very complicated. And the last day, Mike helped us a lot. He was with us long hours trying to solve it, and finally we got there. And yes, from the help of all the team members and the mentors, it's been great. And yeah, that was my appreciation note.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And Cassandra? I guess she stepped down as well. Okay.
I think she's here. Maybe she's muted. I don't know. She's here.
Can't hear. Then maybe you can go, Eva.
Yeah. What was I wanted to say? There was something else on top. So I put two things. But yeah, for my appreciation, it's just that you will see when you work in a development team. Sometimes it's difficult to give feedback, and I feel like all of you are professionals at having really great attitudes, like always thinking about but like growth mindset. How can we make this better? How can we make what other things can we do? What can we change? So I think it's really great. It's very easy to you won't believe it, but people get very emotional about the stuff that they write, and I'm glad that's not it doesn't seem to happen with any of you. So it's very easy. I feel it's the communication is very easy like that.
That just reminded me now for the last issue. I think Karen really put a lot into her code. I think she built something in trying to color code each of the items. And I already, so while working, I think I was already working on everything at the same time, although I was talking to her. So I think she did something. I know she went through a lot to make sure she put that out. And then at the end of the day, I used mostly what I did. So I felt like that may get to her, but I didn't hear her say anything about it. So I wasn't, I'm not sure. So I'm not sure exactly how she felt about it, but I just want to know. So in case
tell-
you were, yeah, in case you were upset, your code was great, definitely. I was actually quite I was actually quite amazed by how much he was able to write. But then, it was this maybe the CSS just needed a bit of improvement, and I felt like, and she liked what I did because I showed her stylishly, and then she liked it. So let's just go with this. So yeah.
How did you feel about it, Karen?
I was really grateful actually, because I'd sort of got it as far as my skills would allow. So I was very, grateful that I was able to take it on and just make it look a bit more professional, I think, and do some of the little things that I hadn't thought of. So um I was pretty grateful. Thanks. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
I think in some cases, some people would have fought for their code.
Exactly how I felt she might have felt. I thought she would, let's use this. I used this. I wrote this. Let's. But then she didn't say much about it. Although I explained before I used my code anyways. And I'm happy
Okay.
she's okay with it.
Yeah, then that's quite fine. Oh, you need to leave, Karen? Okay, that's fine. Hope you have a happy celebration.
Thank you. See you all soon.
Yeah, happy birthday
Bye.
to him.
Thank you.
And then I think you're still talking, right, Eva?
Was I? No, I think we can move to the next column, the second one, the what went well, or should we
Yeah.
wrap it up here?
I would just quickly go over mine. Mine was mostly just appreciation for the mentors that stepped in while I was away, and quite fine, and also went quite well. I think the issues are quite finishing on time. I'm quite impressed. And also the communication. I see some PRs and I see how very detailed it is, and I think that's quite impressive. Probably also that's all. Maybe Eva or Mike, if you have something else to add for the what went to a column.
I just want to say quickly, that it's so nice that it's even when we swap pairs and like the issues are some are more difficult, some are easier. It's just very smooth. It's nice to see that like you're all able to adapt to new partners, to the new co-challenges. I think, yeah, I really like that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I forgot. Okay, sorry. I forgot to mention something too, although Karen is not here. So I think I learned something from her about writing PRs, because the last one, for the last issue, I had to copy the way she wrote the previous one. So yeah, that's why I said she's a good writer.
Yeah, I think the PRs from it's been quite for me, I usually like quite descriptive PRs when I read them. So I think it's very something I really appreciate. Just to be on time, I would like to move to the what could be improved column. And I think both points are written by me. The first one I would like to touch on is punctuality. I think for some meetings, sometimes some people are a bit like maybe more than 5 minutes late or so. So I think it would be nice if we're on time, at least by 8. So even if we have a chit chat, maybe after 3 minutes, 5 minutes, we're able to start rather than waiting for other people to join. And for me, just an advice, because if you join for some organizations, it could be something important. If you always show up to meetings late, it could show something, mean something different, especially if you work with Germans or if you work in Germany. They like to be very on time, and even 1 minute late is a big issue. So just so that you are aware, in case you work with different people and you are not conscious of what goes around. And the other one for me was the office hours. I noticed that the last 2 times I did them, and I posted time to get time people to participate. I didn't get almost no response. At least I got from Karen, and even after like multiple messages to fill time. So I feel like probably either the reason for the office hours is not made clear, and it's not quite valued or appreciated, hence why the collabs ignore the messages or don't respond to them on time, or most likely they don't check the Slack messages and skip them. I'm not sure why, but that is one thing that I think could be improved. But we're in the last week, so, and also I'm not sure if that's the same experience with Eva or Aris and how they feel about it.
I think maybe I would like to hear first from the collabs if
Yeah.
Yeah, like what Peter said, is it useful for you, or what do you expect from the office hours, or like maybe is it tricky because the three of us have a different system and different time because we live in different countries as well. Oh no, Aristos and I are in the same one. But yeah, so if you could tell us what you think about the office hours.
If it's not important, you don't like it, I mean, it's fine to say so we know what to change or improve in the future. I think I will have Sandra go first in this case.
Okay, so in my particular case, I have replied to the office hours. I think the last one I confirmed that I was attending, but I don't know if I probably I didn't do it properly, or what happened, but I saw my name there. I don't know what I did, but I thought it won't be on, so I didn't attend because I didn't receive a confirmation. And the other couple before that one, probably the times, yes, as Eva mentioned, is a little bit difficult at those times as well, late.
Okay.
Thanks.
Mike, what about you?
So for this last week, I don't think I saw any message regarding office hour. I didn't even think about it. It didn't even cross my mind. I'm not sure I saw a message about it. Maybe I missed it from Slack. I'm not sure. But now it's just now that you mentioned office hour, I remember that, oh, actually we were supposed to have one last week. So but for the times when I've had issues that I really needed to discuss, maybe issues concerning code. Yes, they've been important. And then also be trying to learn more about the mentor's journey, especially Eva. I think it was also very, so that week was good. So yeah, maybe if you're hosting it this week, Peter, maybe I'd like to come in and maybe we can have like just a chat, talk about the experience. So basically for me, that's just what it has been about, the experiences, and just few times I have maybe an issue around writing a code or some JavaScript problem.
So I take it that then you join when you have JavaScript code problems and you need the mentor support.
Something like that. Yes.
Okay. Interesting. Cassandra, can you still speak? I guess we can still hear you. Okay, so for Sandra, yeah, the last week I saw your answer, but you were the only one that answered. So because you were the only one, and I felt like there was no much interest from people, and so I didn't bother sending any invite because it's just you, and I was curious to know why. Because also the last one I organized, I had to message or put like 3 reminders before I actually got any other input, and this is like tagging making notifications. So it was quite, for me, it's quite strange to if with that kind of response. So I was just curious to know, but at least I get that one issue might be time, which you can also suggest a different time to the author, or also leave comment. But yeah, fine. I think, yeah, in that case, I would only advise you turn up for this week's office hours. It will be with Aris. So you can show some support. And in that case, also just to wrap up, if you have any question regarding this week's issue or anything, just drop. If you also feel like I should do an office hour with you during the week, if you want to chat more with me, you can just let me some days before, so that I can see if I would be able to make out time for that. And even if it's not my week for office hours, and we could still have a chat, 30 minutes, 1 hour, I just need time beforehand to plan for it. I think that's it. Eva, do you have any final comments?
Oh, I'm excited. So I'll also be reviewing your code this week. So I can't wait to see what you come up with. So I would just say, yes, you have the freedom, but you also have the responsibility. So it would be good so that you meet all of you as soon as possible and start like designing, planning, and then, get like tasks out and start working on those. Because yeah, otherwise you'll see it's a different challenge. Scoping, planning, designing, it's a different challenge.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Yeah, have a great week, everyone.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
You too. Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.